Begin the National League Preview. Macklin Sports Services host TopShelfChicago.com. The 2011 Major League Baseball National League Preview begins now. And it starts out east where the Philly is laying minus 300, and justifiably so. Not only did they get a little bit better adding Cliff Lee, they did lose Jason Worth, which I thought, was a little bit... I thought that was a bit... I like Jason Worth. I think he's a very good hitter. He could have been replaced. My problem is they didn't replace him. After you go get past Howard in that lineup, you do have some issues with Ibanez, etc. Obviously, everybody thinks Jimmy Rollins is going to have a bounce-back year, which I kind of agree with, but there's not much there protecting. So I'm kind of wondering what the deal is with that. We'll have to see. The pitching, obviously, is going to be outstanding. You have Cliff Lee, Roy Halladay, you have Roy Oswalt already there, and Cole Hamels, and then, whoever feels like pitching that fifth day. It might even be John Warner, for all we know, but it's not going to really matter when you really get down to it. As long as the bullpen can hold itself, as long as the hitters are going to be there, I think that you could... That's going to be the best team that's going to be in that league, and I don't see anything happening as far as any kind of really challengers. Atlanta, they got a lot of young players and Hayward, etc. But let's face it, you add Dan Ogla to that team. That's just a free swinger. That tells you that you don't have a lot of pop in that lineup. That tells you that you don't have a lot of confidence in the fact that Tripper Jones is going to have to be able to play a season. So I don't necessarily like what's going on there. Bobby Cox leaving. That lineup is veteran enough that they can be able to sustain that for a while. But I don't see it there. Tommy Hanson, he's pretty average, but he's not going to be a frontliner. So I would say that you got to lay the 300 if you're going to do anything. The team that I actually, if Strasburg was available, I'd actually look at throwing down and getting 4-1 on the Washington, but he's not going to be available. We all know that. I like what's happening there. You've got guys like Jordan Zimmerman, you got Ryan Zimmerman there, and then you know what? You throw in Jason Worth behind that lineup, a little bit of protection. They are kind of lacking from the left side. Adam LaRoche isn't going to do much, but I like what's happening down there. I'm going to be watching them this season, I can tell you for sure. So, moving on to the Central. First and foremost, you have to realize that last year it was a two-team race for the most part the entire season between the Reds and the Cardinals. Cardinals you look at what each one of those teams. One of the interesting things that I spent a lot of time in the Central, and the reason being, I really wanted to look at who got better. I mean, the scenario is the Cincinnati Reds are the team, the darling everybody talks about. They're the odds-on favorite. What I don't like about Cincinnati, I'll be perfectly frank with you, is Dusty Baker. Dusty Baker has a long history of taking young teams, especially young arms, and destroying them and actually overworking them, etc., etc. Edison Volquez, you got the guys like him. Obviously, you got Aroldis Chapman, who came in halfway through that season. He'll be with them for the entire year now. I do like what's happening with a few of those pitchers, but after that, there's not much there. Joey Votto, is he what he is? Is he the MVP player? Is he going to have that kind of year every year, or is he just John Kruk? A couple good seasons, a guy who doesn't necessarily, didn't tear it up too much in the minors, but comes to the major leagues, makes himself a boatload of stats a couple seasons, and all of a sudden just kind of fades away. I think he's a little bit better than John Kruk, obviously, but I don't know. I don't see that. I see a pattern with Dusty Baker teams where they tend to go somewhere and then they just tend to fade away. So that being said, who in the National League did improve in National League Central? Milwaukee Brewers. Obviously, they pick up a few pitchers. They got some expiring contracts at hitters. They're going out, and I think that they're making an effort. Obviously, they made a deal for Zach Greinke, which is a pretty significant one when you consider the fact that they now have two really solid pitchers, and then you got Sean Markham coming. Randy Wolf, he's nothing. I think we played overs on Randy Wolf half the season last year, and we did really well doing it. We'll probably continue doing it this year. But the idea behind it is I think the Brewers have actually improved. They have improved their team. I liked what they brought last year, and they do have a lot of experience out there. They have between McGee and Fielder and Braun, that's about as solid as you can get. So my thought, if you can get 2-1 with the Brewers, I think that's a good play right now. I think that's going to be a solid play throughout this season, and I like what's happening there as long as their bullpen can hold up. Another team that I thought that might have improved a little bit, Chicago Cubs, believe it or not. They went out and got Matt Garza. I thought outside of Zach Greinke, Matt Garza probably was the only significant adding to a team in the National League Central. If you look at the Cardinals, they did absolutely nothing. And now they're without Adam Wainwright. I think the Cardinals are done. It's one of those things. You know what the joke is I look at that scenario in St. Louis, and halfway through every season, is Tony La Russa coming back? Is Tony La Russa coming back? And I kind of think it allocates to, the Phil Jackson scenario in L.A. If people cry enough, if people love me enough, maybe I'll come back and coach their team. And you know what? That's just, it's kind of a cancerous scenario because there's no Kobe Bryant there because they're going to be losing Albert Pujols. So we'll have to see. I don't think there's going to be a lot of good things coming out of St. Louis. My pick for the National League Central is going to be Milwaukee Brewers. So, and now we go west, which to me is the most interesting of all the leagues, and I'm going to tell you why. Is because obviously there is a definite front runner in the Colorado Rockies, and for good reason. You have Carlos Gonzalez and Tulowitzki, not to mention all the other players on the team, and I like their bench. You know what? You take a guy like Spilbros, and it seems like whenever they play him, he plays well, and he's not the kind of guy who's going to lead a team, etc. But the one thing I see out west, and it's the emerging part that I've been waiting for a few years for this to happen, is for the Dodgers to start playing like the young talent that they should be. I think, and I've already said that my National League MVP candidate this year, the guy who I think is going to take it, is going to be Andre Ethier. The numbers that he put up in a short period of time while he could last year, the question is it going to be, how can he stay healthy? Can he sustain through the entire season? My thought is that I think he can. I think the actual transition to Don Mattingly will actually help this team. Joe Torre, forever has always been a player's coach. He rolls them out there, he lets them play, etc. I think this little jolt that they're going to get in California with Andre Ethier and Matt Kemp and people like that is going to be interesting. They did lose a few players, Russell Martin, etc. like that, but I think that the Dodgers are going to be a long shot and a good number to lay if you want to win. If you're not going to go with Colorado, obviously, I'm fading San Francisco. You know what? They had their run. They hit the perfect storm. They got their number last year. I'm sorry, unless something happens with Cody Ross that we don't know, or people of that sort, you can't just take that kind of a lineup, put it together throughout an entire season. They got in a nice run. They have a few pitchers. Any one of those pitchers goes down, which obviously, considering the fact that they pitched extra last year, they went all the way through the series, etc. It's hard to ask those pitchers, especially at that age, to do that again. So I don't think that San Francisco is going to be doing anything. My pick is going to be the LA Dodgers. So, in retrospect, going the NL East, we're going to go with the Philadelphia Phillies, although we're not going to do it now that late in that number. In the Central, we're going to go with the Milwaukee Brewers, and out West, we're going to go with the LA Dodgers. This has been Mick from Top Shelf Chicago. Please see my videos at tsemick.yahoo.com, obviously, and go to parlayhelp.com, which is going to monitor the 2011 Premium Place Challenge at parlayhelp.com. Thank you. Have a good day.